Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Droopy here, alongside with my co-caster Cyber. Today, we are here for Team Gravity's Fight Night, week number 8, and we have the sickest lineup for you guys today. I tend to say this every time I cast, but this one, guys, that that feature match at the very end. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to jump into the future for that. But you know what?
Every time.
We still got two amazing preliminary matches. Cyber, what are you thinking about these today, man? What are we gonna cast here?
I mean, well, right out of the gate, we got Kelazhur versus Harstem, a kind of newcomer who has won some serious hearts in WCS Premier League round of 32. And then we've got Harstem, a player who's been around for quite some time. And then, of course, after that, we've kind of got the streamer show match with Desro versus Fenner. And then finally, to top things off, the headliner match, the main event that you were hyping up. I mean, Rain versus Supernova.
Rain versus Supernova.
Freaking Rain versus Supernova. What a cool set of matches this week. And it's like every week, somehow, I don't know how the Team Gravity guys do it, but somehow they get just amazing matches in almost every way.
I gotta say, as a TOS player myself, the opportunity to cast Rain, like, I'm feeling like a teenage girl at a One Direction concert. Like, oh my gosh. I'm probably just gonna giggle during the whole cast. We'll see. Hopefully that's not the case. Otherwise, I won't be invited back. But
they're like, well, the games were amazing, but the commentary is just these two guys giggling the entire time.
I know. But yeah, we're going to get started very shortly, guys. As always, the format for preliminary matches is best of 5. And then for the headliner, it is going to be a best of 7. It's a $100 prize pool in total. Best of 5 games will be a $10 victory prize. And the Rain versus Supernova match will be a split of 60 and 20. 60, of course, to the winner. So thank you guys for joining us today. We're going to head right into game number 1 here between Kelazhur and Harstem.
Team Gravity presents Fight Night.
Y'all ready for this?
So a PVT to start us off with. I think it was like last week. We had just so many TVZs for the Team Gravity Fight Night, but mixing things up a little bit here. And definitely a good match to start out with.
Yeah, I lodged my complaints with the Team Gravity management over racism, and there wasn't enough representation, but we're getting some diversity in here now. So let's take a look at the players who will be playing. So this is game number 1 in a best of 5 between these two players. First one's going to be on Vani Research Station, as determined by vetoes. So we do have here at the very top, it is going to be the Brazilian sensation, who's just been turning a lot of heads lately, taking a game off of Pult in WCS Premier for NA. Very, very amazing stuff. So yes, it is going to be the blue Terran at the very top, Kelazhur.
And in the south, as that red Protoss player from Team Fnatic, it is indeed Harstem. So two players who are, I would say, in many ways, quite equatable. And I mean, maybe if you only look at the fact that one of them made it through Challenger and one of them didn't, maybe you could say otherwise. And at the same time, people would probably make the claim that Harstem, being the, more experienced player, maybe has a bit of an edge. He's certainly got a bit more of a pedigree behind him to prove that he can play well across a long span of time. So we'll see. In my mind, this seems like a very solid matchup. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a walkover one way or the other.
Yeah, I think so as well. Also, even if Harstem couldn't quite get into Premier, he plays on a different server. I mean, he's based out of Europe, and we all know that Europe is a little tougher, I'd say, than NA. Kelazhur, even though he is South American, it is the North American server, I suppose. So, yeah, I would say Premier and NA could be equatable to some of those Challenger League Europeans. So again, I'm curious to see how this matchup goes. I'm curious to see how this matchup goes. Probe on SCV action here. SCV so far losing, but Kelazhur is going to do what he can to delay that Nexus just a bit more, but it finally goes down.
Yeah, and of course, Vane, one thing that people always talk about is that in-base natural expansion, which can be quite interesting because some players, of course, choose to play a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more cheesy because they're expecting their opponent to play more greedy with that in-base natural. In this particular case, we've got the Reaper coming in from Kelazhur, but the Mothership Core is already out. He's going to be able to chase that away, and really, that first Reaper shouldn't be doing a ton of damage.
Oh yeah, no question. It's going to be used as a scout. Of course, the first thing that the Reaper needs to look for is an expansion. It's going to go after these probes just a little bit first. And will it get that kill? It's going to be so close. That probe being microed back and forth by Harstem. And just into safety as Kelazhur is going to leave before the Reaper dies.
Yep, gonna keep that Reaper alive, which is very important to not throw that Reaper away and just sacrifice it needlessly. But at the same time, our Protoss expansion is just a bit ahead of that of our Terran, but it's the factory follow-up for Kelazhur, while it's the Twilight Council for Harstem.
So with the Twilight here, I'm probably going to expect Harstem to go into just a little bit of blink early on, serve as a bit of a pressure as well as contain. I mean, it could be an all-in as well, so we'll just have to see how Harstem proceeds from here. But I don't expect DTs from him. That's also a possibility, but I'm expecting more blink than anything.
Yeah, I mean, some players do like to go for more of the two-base sort of play on this map, just because you do have that kind of easy-to-secure base, and, you know, whether or not you feel like two-base all-ins from Protoss are maybe just a bit too strong, whatever your opinions are there, it is definitely a possibility for a guy like Harstem to at least try that out. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, at least once in this best of 5, I would not be surprised if he went for some sort of heavy aggression two-base play. So he is dropping down the Robo, though.
Yeah, it's important to remember that this is a series, so players are going to be tested on their versatility and their knowledge of a variety of builds. Both of these players, I'm sure, have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. So, you know, I don't, like you said, Cyber, I don't see every game being like, oh, let's macro to 4 bases as soon as possible. Like, there's going to be some weird things thrown in here and there. Kelazhur now is going to push out here. Looks like a Marine drop with, I guess, 1 Reaper, as well as 2 Hellions on the low ground, or 4, or 6. Okay.
Yeah. He's pumping it up. He's got that token Reaper inside of the medevac. And Harstem has positioned his units quite nicely. He's got his Mothership Core kind of on the right side. He's got a pylon and some stalkers spread around his main base, just getting him that extra bit of info. Now on the right side, we do have the medevac going to be coming in. There is that Reaper in there just to be a little bit annoying. There's going to be the Photon Overcharge, and Kelazhur should be picking up and getting on out of there. Hopefully he won't just leave these Marines. Nope, he saves all of them. Wow, the Hellions heading in to the front. Will they actually be able to snag very many probe kills? Well, they're certainly going to get a couple, as 2 of them at least do go down. 5 in total, and 7 go down right there. But the Marines are moving in, stutter stepping forward. 8 do go down, but is everything going to be lost? Yeah, even the Mothership Core goes down, and Kelazhur is doing that damage that he needs.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, Kelazhur has definitely... Oh, there's a little bit of a pause here, maybe because of lag, don't know. But Kelazhur taking a lot of workers out is a great thing. But if you take a look at the bottom here, he's still behind in worker count, and it's because he put a lot into that attack. He basically paused SCV production for a bit. So Harstem is still ahead right now. And another thing, too, is what I really loved about Harstem's defense is his building placement. I mean, he, generally TOS will do this, sort of, block off pathing behind the mineral line, such that the Reapers that harass cannot easily just move around. But this also served to help a lot with that Hellion drop, because the Hellions could not get into that mineral line easily, not before Stalkers weakened them severely. So great building placement there from Harstem.
Yeah. Now, of course, with that worker count, the mule factor is something that we always have to consider, and that is helping, but the third CC is not quite there just yet. It has not been started for Kelazhur, so potentially he's just going to be sitting on those 2 orbitals, as I know lots of people do talk about the power of the triple orbital, which certainly it is fearsome. However, we do have the Colossus going to be popping on out pretty soon from Harstem, and he's starting to move across the map with a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, this blink pressure is going to be interesting. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard for Kelazhur to hold because he does have the tank on the high ground. But what I'm keeping an eye on is that Warp Prism. That Warp Prism may just sneak something into a mineral line that Kelazhur may not notice because he's busy worried about the Stalker harassment. But then again, as I say this, the Stalkers have backed off, and we're just seeing the Warp Prism now making a move.
Yeah, Kelazhur, he's trying to find that Warp Prism. He's got his Viking out on the move, trying to hunt it down as the first Forge is going down for Harstem. And he does have that third base on the way as well, so it's not terribly far behind the third command center of our Terran player. And both of these players, we kind of talked about the potential for two-base aggression, but it seems like they're going to be looking to sit back, macro up maybe a little bit further.
Oh my goodness, this War Prism was found by Kelazhur. He hit it all the way in the very corner. Of course, Kelazhur is going to move his Viking just to that corner, just to start out scouting that giant open space, I suppose. And he did chase away the Warp Prism, but not far enough that the Warp Prism could, warp in a bunch of Stalkers and snipe the Viking for chasing.
Yep, Kelazhur not overcommitting to that push. However, his third CZ has just finished out. He's starting to push out onto the map a little bit here with his units. This may just be to kind of look around, see if there's any Protoss units waiting to threaten his third before he flies it over, but he could also be looking to put on some actual pressure. He wants to keep that base count of the Protoss down, and if he could get in here, snipe a Nexus, and get out with, not taking too much damage, then he'd be feeling very good about that.
Oh, and this is a fantastic time to push out, if anything. The stim is about to finish here, and you know what? Suddenly, Harstem's going to have to split his units, probably defend multiple places if Kelazhur decides to harass that natural. We'll see if he decides to make it a two-pronger. Maybe not. Maybe he'll just go after that third. But the time is now when it comes for Terran Bio.
Yeah, we've got the stim pack and +1 attack, but +1 armor is not completed for our Protoss player, so he does have a bit of an upgrade advantage. Now, a couple of Marines and Marauders do dart forward. However, they do get pushed back by the Terran, and there aren't a lot of Vikings here. In fact, there should only be like 1 or 2 out on the map, which means these Colossus have to cause Kelazhur to take a bit of a pause. He has to consider where he wants to go with it. And oh, that Zealot eventually did find its way in somewhere, and that Viking will take it down.
Yeah, not too much damage done there by that Zealot. Kelazhur still looking for an opportunity to attack down here, but with those two Colossus, serving pause here for Kelazhur. And Harstem here is just going to start transitioning into that Templar Archives. So he's more than happy to just let Kelazhur sit outside.
Yeah, and there's this stim to take out the hallucinated Phoenix. Not something you always see, but Kelazhur also does want to back off a little bit here. He's not ready to commit to this attack just yet. He is saturating his own third, which I believe with the liftoff and the timing there of that third orbital, it was a little bit slower than our Protoss opponent, but not by too terribly far, I should think.
You mentioned earlier, Cybert, that Kelazhur had the slight upgrade advantage, but that's already changed, mainly because Harstem is upgrading on Double Forge. He's also chronoing the Double Forge, but is that going to come into play here when he defends this natural? We have a giant drop here, basically a Doom drop, but the Colossus are here quickly, and these Bio units are also going to be attacking over at that third as well. Two-prong attack, Harstem splitting his units well, and losing that natural, unfortunately, and Kelazhur's going to lift those units to safety. Over on this left side, well, even if he doesn't get anything, he's happy with what just happened.
Yeah, sniping that natural, and the severe lack of Stalkers from Harstem meant that all of those medevacs got away, most of the units survived. That was just a pretty darn good trade there for Kelazhur. And of course, on the left side, he didn't trade quite as well in terms of he didn't really kill all that much, but he was able to snipe that natural, and he's going to be able to get away pretty much scot-free. And of course, that puts him one base up on his opponent. He's also got those mules, which are an ever important factor.
Yeah, I mean, prior to that, I'd say Harstem was definitely ahead in the economy. He's looking pretty solid with just the multiple Colossus, but this is Vonnie Research Station, and you can get dropped at any time, and like you said, Cyber, without Stalkers to easily intercept drops at those remote locations, it does make things tough, and Kelazhur has definitely evened things up in this game.
Yeah, now fortunately for Harstem, he did add on that Templar. He was able to get a feedback off, and he does have a few more Stalkers back at home, which will be able to help him guard that edge. So he's not going to be letting these drops hurt him for at least the next couple of minutes. Hopefully, he doesn't leave himself totally undefended, but he's playing a bit smarter. He's, not looking to die to just some drop. He wants to make sure that he's able to win in more of a macro game, as he even adds on his +3 attack pretty darn quickly.
Kelazhur right now working on that 4th base. Harstem has yet to do that himself, but as I say that, I think he's sending a pro over there right now to do just that. So both players just operating like clockwork here with their macro, and we're heading into late game here, folks. Storms are going to play a factor very soon. Just depends on when these two armies will engage. Looks like they're passing right through each other. Oh, here we go. We might see that now.
Oh. If all of these units end up getting clumped up, which Kelazhur does end up disengaging, he will snipe down one of the Colossus. A couple of Vikings may end up trading their lives. There's more than a few Archons here, or at least there's 3 of them here to help deal with those Vikings, but that potentially could have been a very bad engagement for Kelazhur. Now we'll see if he's able to get a better engagement here. A lot of his bio is pretty far in the back, which means they're just having to shoot at the Zealots. And
whoa, that Colossus. What is happening there?
All right. So apparently, if you've got an air unit right there blocking that Colossus, it does cause some pathing issues, as Kelazhur is being forced to stutter step back further and further, as Medevacs getting sniped down one after another, and Kelazhur seems to have been routed. He is pushing back all the way to his base, but he's got only these 2 Medevacs with his army and a lot of red and orange Marines and Marauders.
Yeah, and this is a tricky spot. We're seeing more Vikings come out here for Kelazhur, who's more concerned about the Colossus, even though there's only 2. He needs to replace those medevacs. And to correct myself from earlier, Storm wasn't a factor because it hasn't been researched and is only starting now. But what Harstem did was make a lot of Archons. Those are very beefy units that tanked a lot of those bio hits, and that's why Harstem had such a great battle here, and he's looking to continue pushing right now.
Yep, he's out in the middle. He, of course, is saturated in that 4th base as well. So even if this attack doesn't go super well for him, he does still have that 4-base economy. Now, the Planetary Fortress is being assaulted, but Harstem is going to pull back. We'll have to see if Kelazhur can get a good angle. However, right now, his Marine Marauder army is stemming backwards. There goes all of the Colossus. There's just one left, and it's getting targeted down by the Vikings, while the Zealots get evaporated, and there's really only Stalkers, a couple of Archons left.
Yeah, I think in this battle right here, Harstem really needed to have Storm. He still does not quite have it yet. Now he will. If he can get in one good Storm, all these red and orange units will just vaporize. The question is, can he do it?
Yes, I think it's going to be coming now. Kelazhur does back up. A good move there, but I think there's still 1 or 2 Storms left. However, he's not finding the opportune moment, and yeah, having Storm in that engagement would have absolutely changed everything. He may end up storming these workers if he's got enough energy. No, he does push away that 3rd orbital, and more medevacs getting sniped. Kelazhur cannot keep these things alive.
Oh my gosh, those High Templars catch some of those units with the Storm. Kelazhur backs up just in time. Ooh. And, well, those High Templar are going to go to waste now. Storm's not landing the way they needed to.
And move command Zealots do move past a small patch of bio. They do end up cleaning up that bio there, and now Force Field's going to be keeping some of these units on the high ground. Kelazhur has had his army pretty much completely destroyed here. As we can see, a 50 supply lead for our friend Harstem.
Yeah, and Harstem also took out that 3rd base, which is huge. He's going to go after this Planetary Fortress now, but you cannot underestimate the repair capability of those SCVs. And because of that and the army arriving, Harstem is backing off right now. There's one Colossus just sitting there, I might want to add, finding itself in a pretty awkward spot. So that was unfortunate. A missed rally there from Harstem. But you know what? It's a drop in the bucket for him. He's on 5-base economy right now. He's remaxing way faster than Kelazhur can. Eats an EMP in the face, I might want to add, and that kind of makes things a little tough for him. Yeah, he's on the run right now, and Kelazhur's going to pick off quite a few units before those High Templar arrive.
Yeah, I don't know if Kelazhur in the next engagement is necessarily going to have enough. Now, a lot of it will come down to the Storms and the Storm dodging. which, I mean, you know, whether or not you feel storms are harder to dodge than they are to throw down, the fact is he's going to have to deal with them. There are a couple of Widow Mines, so potentially if he can bait some of these Zealots or the Templar into those Widow Mines, that could help him do a lot of the damage that he needs to deal with this army, but it's going to take some careful positioning.
Yeah, and you know, I see a lot less Vikings now than before, so Harstem is cleared to make more Colossus if necessary. He's making 2 of them at once as I speak. But we are still going to have to see this battle happen without those 2 Colossi. Will the storms land? That one is a great storm, severely weakening those units, and that may be enough to force Kelazhur to back off, but he'll try to lure the units into the Widow Mines first. Second storm catching the tail end of that army, not as good as the first, but Kelazhur cannot commit just yet.
Yeah, that 3/3 +1 shields from our Protoss player really being a nice advantage, considering that Kelazhur is still on 2/2 and his +3 infantry attack is just now going to be finishing up, or just in a few moments going to be finishing up. He does have a drop going to the 4th base location. At the same time, Harstem moving into the 4th of Kelazhur and the 3rd with a lot of Zealots, as the Colossus are going to be dropping off at the 3rd location. And there's a big warp, and now down at the south, the medevacs are heading in, but the Zealots at the at the 3rd of Kelazhur are going to be trying to do what damage they can, and these engagements all over the place as at the, well, I guess now the 3rd base location of Kelazhur, more Zealots trying to deal with the bio as they are coming back out of that production, and down south at that, oh, the medevacs do get pushed away from the 3rd of Harstem.
Oh, those were fantastic storms there. They're going to clean up the rest of Kelazhur's army at the top. Over here, this drop is still going strong. Wasn't able to take out that 3rd base, but it is going after the 4th right now. And Harstem still has to get some units over to defend, which he does.
Woo!
And after all of this craziness, it looks like Kelazhur is now down 2 bases compared to Harstem.
Yep, and if we take a look at that income tab, it does reflect that a little bit as Kelazhur is dropping behind both in the gas and in the resources. Overall, I feel like the defense was just so much better for Harstem, but Kelazhur, I mean, it's not like he's out of here just yet. He does have a drop on that right side base while he is catching a couple of pylons in the middle of the map. That drop on the right side may be able to do some damage, but again, Kelazhur is just behind in the sheer base count.
Yeah, but it's always so hard to tell when it's in these late game situations because Terran have the benefit of mules. So even if they're lower on bases, it's like, okay, I'm just going to load a bunch of mules on fresh mineral patches, and I'm still in the thick of things. And yeah, Kelazhur just taking out this 5th base. Right now, the supply lead is in favor of Kelazhur slightly by 11. But so much can change just with the micro of one big battle. Looks like Harstem's going to back off here and try to re-rally his units, but those Colossus are actually kind of exposed. He's going to need to engage to save them as those High Templar are coming from behind, and Kelazhur is going to basically kite backwards.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Harstem didn't send anything over to the right side to deal with that drop. I mean, it was only like 4 or 5 units in those medevacs. He does have a probe heading out, most likely to reestablish that base. But for now, Kelazhur going to be dropping into that main base location. I guess it's not actually to establish that base. He's going to snipe himself a pylon, eat a storm. But the follow-up, the 3 armor is finally going to be on the way for Kelazhur. It seems like it's been so long since Harstem finished up his own upgrades, and yet still, Kelazhur is in this.
Looks like Kelazhur has floated that main over to the 3rd base, and that is a benefit that is afforded to Terran. You can always reuse your command centers after they mine out a certain location. And yeah, Kelazhur is definitely in it. There's no question about it, and you can't say the guy hasn't tried either. Take a look at the workers killed, guys. 45 workers killed compared to 19 from Harstem. So that's kind of a lot of workers killed, but it's still pretty even throughout. Although I will say Kelazhur is starting to actually take the lead when it comes to the economy.
Ooh, this one Zealot, he is a brave boy on the right side. And as Curran was showing, that Harstem is reestablishing that kind of 5th base, although he is going to be taking just a regular base. Man, there's just like 2 Zealots out on the map just trying to be heroes. But unfortunately, for Harstem, they both are getting shut down, so too bad for him. He is, however, well, he's finally got some Zealots to clean up that drop, which has been so annoying. Nope. Kelazhur picks it up. He flies away once more, as it just seems that Harstem cannot kill off that drop.
Right now, the supplies are very even between the two, 180 to 177, Harstem and Kelazhur respectively. Worker counts, Harstem behind by 5, but remember, once you add in those mules, and Kelazhur is actually going to be ahead in the mining. So
Oh, yeah.
Harstem, yeah, the time is of the essence for him. He needs to do some economic damage. He knows it, which is why he's sending these 3 zealots after that gold base. He's
Yeah.
just, sending little groups one by one, not only to do damage, but to keep Kelazhur busy, because Kelazhur has a pretty big bio army, which is about to clean up these zealots, which means that he
Yeah.
can do a lot of drops, which means that that's going to be really annoying for Harstem here to try to get ahead in this late game. Oh, that was a great storm. My goodness. Landed squarely on top of Kelazhur, who now is going to be running for his life for a moment, allowing for those units to heal up on the ground. But Kelazhur now finding himself on the defensive. Harstem, is he going to commit? Looks like he will, and those bio units are not looking so hot.
No, not quite. And another storm raining down on this bio army, evaporating absolutely everything except for the medevacs, but there's not a lot for them to heal. If we take a look at the third base of Kelazhur, more zealots trying to do some damage, forcing Kelazhur to keep units all over the map, not in that engagement, and oh my, he ate those storms, he lost all of his Vikings, and the Colossus were able to reign supreme after that.
Oh, that battle was so one-sided in favor of Harstem. It wasn't even funny, guys. Everything was even up until that point, for the most part. Now it is a massive supply lead in favor of Harstem, 195 to 103. That's basically double, ladies and gentlemen. And also, Kelazhur's economy has been decimated, 26 workers to 64. Not even mules are going to solve that problem. And now we're seeing a tiny army running for its life as Harstem is giving chase with his 3-3 maxed army, with Colossus, with Storm, with Archons. This is a Protoss player's dream in PvT.
Yep, and oh, he's going to be move commanding a couple of Stalkers into their doom. Now, the Widowmine does fire off, eats up a couple of Zealots, and weakens some of them, but he's going to need way bigger miracles than that to make this game work. As the 4-5 Colossus pushing in, Archons reinforcing. If Kelazhur is able to hold this, I do not know what to call it. GG is what Kelazhur will call it, though.
Oh, man. That was a crazy late game finish from Harstem. That one battle just sealed the deal. That's what StarCraft is all about, man. Sometimes it's back and forth over and over again, and just one thing happens, and suddenly that will determine the outcome of the game. So Harstem is now up 1-0 in this best of 5 for it.
But certainly that does not mean things are over. I mean, I think that first game demonstrated that maybe Harstem, you could take that one game and kind of say, okay, Harstem may be the better player, but clearly Kelazhur has a contending chance. Clearly Kelazhur is a match for Harstem. And that was on the NA server. So maybe now in game number 2, since we're going to switch to the European server, maybe it'll be a different story. Maybe somehow it'll just be a total slaughter, but we shall have to see.
Yeah, I mean, home field advantage is just as prevalent in StarCraft as it is in real life sports. After all, you don't have lag problems if you play on your own server. And so we'll see if that has an effect on things in this game. But yeah, I mean, Kelazhur definitely has, a contending chance here. It was a really close game. There were times where he was ahead and it wasn't looking so great for Harstem. So I'm waiting to see if he can, pull things together here in game number 2.
Mm-hmm. So we are going to switch servers, as we said, and then I guess we'll see what the map choice is from Kelazhur. Is he going to be going for maybe a bigger map? I mean, Kelazhur, I know 3 or 4 months ago, he was actually playing from Brazil. Maybe it was closer to 5 or 6 months ago. And so he was used to playing with a super heavy ping. Or maybe not super heavy, but he was used to playing with a heavy ping. And as a result, I believe in his breaking out interview, he talked about that and how he preferred to kind of play macro because of that. We'll see if he ends up choosing, one of the bigger maps, if he's more looking to end the game with some sort of big drop, or, maybe he's going to be taking his chances and trying to micro his way to victory.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what map is chosen. That's going to be a huge thing. Vani Research Station ideally was the map where you go crazy with the drops. And, there were a few crazy ones. I mean, there was that huge one on the natural that really made things scary for Harstem. But beyond that, there wasn't really that much. I mean, there was also that small drop, at the close to the end that was kind of hopping from base to base. But Now that we are going to be going into a second map, we'll see what Kelazhur chooses. I'm guessing it's going to be another map with an in-base natural. That's just my guess.
It may end up being that. Although, if he's looking for those drops, then maybe Catalina is the choice, as he has typed that in. So I kind of got the insider scoop over you, Droopy, because I actually got to see what he chose. But yes, the next map is going to be Kelazhur. Nope, the next map is going to be Kelazhur's choice, but it is going to be Catalina. And before we get too far, I do want to say thank you, of course, to Hitbox and Team Gravity for organizing the fight nights every single week. Sometimes it's on Sunday, maybe it's on Monday if there's conflicting broadcasts, but brought to you by Hitbox TV, and of course, Droopy is the other guy. I am Cybert, but our lovely observer and production man is Curran TV, who actually makes things look good. And otherwise, it would probably not look as good.
No. I mean, I've tried my hand at observing before. It didn't turn out... Well, it was fine, but I was fiddling with the cards and stuff. That was kind of a little messy. But yeah, Curran's a lifesaver, no question about it. So big thanks to him. And a big thanks to our new subscriber for Team Gravity's Fight Night channel. It is You. Yeah, that's right. You're not going to get me to say that on air. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. But people. Yeah, I've seen this viewer quite a few times, catching some of our Team Gravity events. So it's great to have you on board as a subscriber, my friend. And if you guys, I'm gonna have to plug myself here. If you guys have followed my Twitter, you'll know that he is also a fantastic wingman. If you look, I have never been surrounded by as many attractive blonde women as I have been on Ofikyu's follow list on Twitch.
All right then.
Yeah, he has a lot of he's a fan of a lot of female streamers, and then there's the Droopy Town Network right there in the smack dab of all of them. And I'm like, man, this guy is getting me a lot of girls today.
in one way or another, I mean, you can't argue with that.
Yeah, so
it depends on perspective. At any rate, the perspective of this match is that Harstem is up 1-0 in this best of 5. He's that much closer to that $10. And no, that's not the biggest prize pool in the world, but it's a little sum, and it's also, you get those bragging rights of being like, yeah, you know that guy who took a game off of Pult? Well, I totally wrecked him, is potentially what Harstem could be saying. And then by proxy, maybe that means he totally wrecks Pult. Who knows?
Well, then again, Kelazhur did eventually lose the Pult, so... But, yeah, not to let the air out of Harstem's balloon there. But we are heading into game number 2 now, guys. It is on Catalina LE, as Cybert said. So let's go ahead and see the players who are involved. So we do have here, spawning on the lower right-hand side, representing Team Fnatic. It is going to be the Red Protoss, Harstem.
Game paused.
All right.
And
maybe just a little bit of lag.
With the lag now. Yeah.
Yeah. Either that or he needed to alt-tab out, change his music a little bit, something like that. We'll have to see. Right in the middle of the zoom from Curran as well. So we're just locked at that slightly zoomed in, altered angle. But of course, Catalina, if any of you ended up seeing the WCS Premier games with Kelazhur, you know that he did indeed like himself some drops versus TLO. He did his best to just drop TLO to death. And though that was a TVZ, we can still see something similar happen here in this game.
All right. Speaking of this game, it has been resumed. So, Catalina LE, we already kind of talked. Oh, did we even finish introducing the guys?
Did you actually say Harstem?
We only did Harstem. So, Cybert, take it away.
And on the left side, the Breaking Out Season 3 finalist, also recently Premier League Terran player. He is blue. He is Kelazhur.
Okay, so not to be a broken record, but to be one anyway. We kind of talked about this. Kelazhur is going to pick a map that obviously, plays to his strengths. And this is kind of a map where there's a lot of opportunity for drops. And check it out where the spawning locations are. Harstem's in that one base where there's a giant gaping nothingness behind the main base.
Yep, he does indeed have that problem to work by. Now, of course, Catalina has a ton of dead space anyways, but we do have the SCV scout going to be heading out for Kelazhur. He also is going to be getting that Reaper as well. And we'll have to see. I mean, there's all sorts of shenanigans. Wow, that 3-minute GLHF timing. But there's all sorts of shenanigans that can happen on this map with drops, and of course everyone knows drops between, the main or the third base can be a problem, or sometimes elevators can be a problem depending on the spawn locations. Maybe not so much with these spawn locations, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, and then, of course, you just set me up with a nice assist here in regards to shenanigans, right? Because this is kind of what we're seeing here. It is a proxy Stargate, the second pylon being the proxied one. So, you know what? If Kelazhur is paying attention, which I can only assume he is, he's going to be able to notice immediately there's only one pylon this late into the game in Harstem's base. So he knows something funky's going on. Of course, he's not going to know where the Stargate is, but he can reasonably expect that he's going to have to put up some turrets or something to defend an Oracle.
Yep, now unfortunately for Kelazhur, just yet, he does not have that engineering bay, but there we go, he does indeed start it. So his suspicions were confirmed. He was like, all right, I know I'm going to have some sort of shenanigans going on the way. Typically, it is going to be that Oracle, and yes, that will be the choice for Harstem, which, I mean, normally when you proxy a Stargate, especially when we're thinking PvT, I feel like it's always an Oracle. There's, like, really never any situation where it's not.
Yeah, it's definitely not one Phoenix, right? I mean, sometimes you can have a Void Ray come out if you were just turning it into a 3-gate Stargate all in. But that's generally not the case. And we do see the Oracle come out. The Reaper does as well from Kelazhur. Are the turrets up and ready? They will be very soon. Not the Natural, though. Natural is exposed, and that SUV is basically earmarked for death.
Yep. Now, the missile turrets will be able to finish. There are some Marines here, technically not enough to engage that Oracle straight up, but they've got that bunker so close, and the missile turret as well. Now, 2 SCVs have been cleaned up, but that Oracle would like to get at least a couple more kills.
Yeah, but now that it's been deactivated, the attack that is, the Oracle's going to have to just try to build up that energy again. And Kelazhur knows he can finish up that CC, will have done so. And now he's looking to counter with this Reaper, or at least do another scout. So we'll see what he can accomplish with it. There's not really a lot at home here for Harstem, other than a mothership core with not enough energy for Photon.
Yep, and there is going to be that scout. The Oracle will finish off the Reaper eventually, but honestly, he saw pretty much everything that there was to see. Everything that Harstem has really done has pretty much been spotted by Kelazhur. I mean, yeah, technically he didn't see the Natural, and maybe he didn't end up clicking on that Twilight Council, but he's probably got a pretty good idea of what Harstem is going for. And thus far, I mean, it's not necessarily terribly different than that first game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he goes into that base. He's like, okay, there's still one gateway, no warp gate. So pretty sure he expanded, right? Unless he's trying to all in with just... Yeah, nothing, right? So we are going to have these things. Marines.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he could be going for something that's just weird, maybe.
We are going to have these Marines push across the map right now, heading into that Natural. There will be a Photon Overcharge available, so those Marines won't be able to do too much, but they will take off that first probe. Free Harstem from the burden of having that extra probe, I guess you can say. Force field will keep those Marines out. Nothing gets in. Natural, though, I think another probe's going to die here, but those Marines will be cleaned up.
Yep. And that is 10 Marines, or maybe it was only 8. It was at least 8 Marines there. He got himself 2 probes. He almost killed a mothership core. And, I mean, he did force the use of that overcharge, but I feel like not worth those Marines. Not worth it.
Yeah, probably not. But now he is going to have to play a little defense once again. Oracle on its way from Harstem to see what it can snipe. Well, that's enough Marines to make sure the Oracle doesn't get any closer. We'll catch another SCV building that bunker. Probably not much more than that. Harstem just going to keep that Oracle alive because Revelation is going to come in handy in about the next minute or so when drops start coming into play.
Yep. Now, Blink is almost finished up for Harstem. He is positioning his stalkers over to the right of the main base, but there is already a bunker kind of in position to somewhat defend against this. Oh my word, this Oracle being so annoying at the front of Kelazhur's base, sniping down yet another SCV, just being as annoying as possible. And of course, Kelazhur just wants to buy a little bit more time because his stim is so close to being done. But will Harstem actually wait? It looks like he is. Going to maybe just wait long enough. 20 more seconds.
He is also making a robo right now, so he does plan on transitioning into that for the long term. But for now, with the stock, he's going to push up, provide a little bit of pressure. Blinking back as they are getting hurt. But this is not an all-in from him. This is just kind of like last game, with the exception that it started off with an Oracle and proxied, I might add. So everything for the Protoss has kind of been pushed a little bit back. But yes, Robo is on the mind for Harstem, no question about it.
Oh. So there is a Widow Mine in the main. Potentially, if we end up seeing... Oh, no, never mind. As the Stalkers just go to the front of the base, they are going to be trying to target down at this bunker. The SCVs may be a little bit late to the repair party, but they do get there nearly in time, and there's enough Marauders to push back that Stalker army. Now, he hasn't gone super far back, so potentially... well, never mind. He's turning around now. He is pretty much given up on the idea of this aggression, which is just fine. He isn't wanting to, like, just throw away all of his stalkers, which is good for him. Harstem going to be turning back around. Starts as 1-1 on the way, and of course he does have that Colossus tech on the way as well.
The tricky question is, when do you take your third in this situation, right? Both players have been just kind of trading a little bit back and forth. Everything was kind of delayed when the TOS decided to do a proxy Oracle. And really, especially from the Protoss point of view, you take your third right now, it's tough to defend, right? Your opponent is armed with medevacs. He's got bio. He can basically drop you into oblivion where you have a lot of ground to cover. If anything, the Terran, I think, in this situation has a better opportunity to expand. But if he chooses not to, he can make a push like he's doing right now before the Colossus of Harstem comes out. And Kelazhur will be in a good position this mid-game to take the victory.
Indeed. Now we do have that first medevac moving out with the army. Once again, Harstem scouting with that Phoenix. But here's the engagement. 3 force fields do lock in some of this bio, so the Zealots can get some slices in. All of the Zealots pretty much... I mean, there's not a lot of Zealots to begin with, but they do get almost eliminated here as the Stalkers pushing forward, the Colossus backing up this army. And trying to gain the high ground advantage, but that's not quite good enough when Harstem's got an observer. He loads up, and Kelazhur loses 1 medevac full of units. The other 2 will be able to escape. Yes, barely.
You know, one thing I would have liked to have seen here in this attack by Kelazhur is if he had prepared maybe just one fully loaded medevac off to the side of the main base of Harstem and dropped that in there. You see how far Harstem went outside with that army right there. Yeah. He was basically begging to be dropped in his main and having so far to run back. The one thing I can say about Harstem, though, is he actually has pretty good observer spread, so he definitely has his mind open when it comes to these the possibility of drops. But still, that was a good opportunity for Kelazhur to make something happen. That attack wasn't it, though.
Yep, just not able to make it happen. Now, Droopy, earlier you were talking a little bit about when do you take your third, and Harstem is like, well, I take my third just a little while ago. Now, something similar to last game is we saw that upgrade disparity for Kelazhur. In this game, we're seeing the exact same thing. We've already got +1/+1 completed for our Protoss player, and Harstem, he's getting that 2/2. On the other hand, Kelazhur, he's just now working on his +1 armor. He does not have the upgrades to match Harstem.
Yeah, well, where he doesn't have the quality, he certainly has the quantity advantage over Harstem. 147 and 135 supply. That's mostly reflected in the army supply. And now is kind of the time where the Terran needs to really push the envelope here, right? It's 15 minutes. It's the mid-game. And it doesn't look like Kelazhur... Has he taken a third, actually? He has not. I'm almost expecting him to do an SCV pool here and go with a giant bio attack. It looks like he's not bringing his SCVs, but he might want to consider it if he's not going to take a third. It's almost an all-in, essentially, at this point. But maybe he's just expecting to take out a third of the Protoss and then just leave it at that. We'll see.
Well, Droopy, you asked for it, and it
Oh.
seems like Kelazhur
There it
is
is.
going to be calling in the boys. He is going to be answering your call. Now, the third base may get targeted down rather quickly. There is a fair number of stemmed bio here. The Colossus getting targeted down. The Vikings in not great numbers, and they're starting to get picked off by those Stalkers, but the Colossus are maybe a little bit far forward. The thing about pulling the boys is you usually want them when you actually start fighting. In this case, there's still one Colossus left. It's not nearly enough forces here for Harstem, but will Kelazhur actually be able to do the damage that he needs? I don't know.
That Nexus is begging to die, but Harstem is trying so hard to defend it, and so far it's working. But now he's looking at just a bunch of gateway units and a bunch of Marauders on the other end of things. That typically is a advantage Terran, I have to say. And right now, Kelazhur is just marching into this natural, unabated.
All right, if he's able to snipe down a bunch of probes and potentially even the Nexus, now we're talking about a different game. But the Zealots do charge in. There's the transform on the Vikings, going to be targeting down that Colossus. They won't be able to kill it because the Stalkers are in just a little bit too high of numbers. And now this Nexus kind of forcing these bio units into a choke. Fnatic Harstem takes game 2 of this best of 3, best of 5.
I gotta say, a lot of times these SCV pulls and all-ins from Terran really just make the Protoss keel over. But Harstem was able to figure out a way there to micro his way to victory. Another thing, too, is that I feel like Kelazhur pulled his SCVs a little too late. They kind of came in like as the battle was already halfway over.
Yeah.
And they didn't really serve the purpose they needed to, I don't think. Not long enough.
Yeah, when you're talking about like absorbing any sort of Colossus shots or any real damage, it doesn't really work when most of the Terran army is already gone. And then that final moment where Kelazhur was trying to play Ring Around the Nexus, and he kind of got trapped. And then that Colossus was just like, LOL, this is super splash damage. But I do believe we are going to have to switch back to the NA server.
Yes. So, as before, both these players are from different continents, so just to keep things fair, we do switch back from one server to the next every other game. And interestingly enough, the players who are playing on the foreign server are the ones who are winning, ironically, right? Kelazhur winning on the EU server. Oh, no, Kelazhur didn't win that one. Never mind. What am I talking about? The score's 2-0 for Harstem.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. It's only off by 1, right?
1-1, 2-0. Yeah, it is only off by 1, in a manner of speaking. But at any rate, yeah, Harstem, would you call that necessarily like a smash from Harstem? I still feel like Kelazhur had the fighting chance. Maybe it was a bit of a throw there, and certainly that game could have turned out very differently with just a few minor changes in how it played out. But I still feel like Kelazhur has the fighting chance. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I'm a bit biased, rooting for, kind of the America's homeboy versus the EU guy, but...
Western Hemisphere pride, I guess you can say.
Represent.
The first game, I think, was a lot closer. The second game, yes, the battle would have gone a lot better, but it still wasn't a slam dunk regardless. I do think that earlier the pressure from Kelazhur didn't quite work. Both the pressures he didn't work. The first one, obviously, waste of 10 Marines. The second one, that drop, or no, it wasn't a drop. It was just a bio push up the front. Didn't really do much. Didn't take out any economy. So, at least in the first game, he was able to do a lot more damage to the economy of Harstem. So, let's see if he goes back to that for game 3 here. It is a best of 5, so he still has an opportunity here. But the window's closing because this is going to be match point.
Yep. And, of course, he's going to have to do the reverse all-kill, if that's what you want to call it. But, it's a best of 5. It's not impossible to win 3 games in a row in this sort of scenario. But it is going to be a bit of an uphill battle because, yeah, we are going to be on NA for the potential final match, but then we switch back to EU. So he's back to that uphill kind of battle of just fighting the ping, fighting the lag, while Harstem is going to be feeling a little bit better on the EU server. So it's certainly going to be difficult for Kelazhur to come back in this series, but Harstem, all he needs to do is just keep playing solid. It seems like in these games, he's doing a lot of just absorbing damage from Kelazhur. Yeah, he tries to poke out, he tries to be aggressive, but he's not overcommitting. He's not playing too aggressive and just throwing his units away. He's just like, oh, you wanna attack me? Okay, I'm just gonna defend pretty well. I'm gonna crush your army, and then I'm gonna sit back, macro up a little bit. I'm not gonna go all out and try to kill you immediately. So pretty patient play from Harstem, and it's winning him so far.
Yeah, it definitely is. So we'll see if he can close things out in Game 3. Until we get started, though, just want to thank you guys for watching this week's Fight Night. We got some amazing matches to come after this one. We do have Fenner versus Desro next, and then after that, it's going to be Rain and Supernova. So definitely
buddy.
Got a great lineup for you guys. And if you are watching this from Team Liquid, let me tell you guys about all the amazing benefits when you come to the Hitbox website, hitbox.tv/Team Gravity. There's a really fun chat going on right now that you guys are missing out. And if you can also help give Team Gravity a follow, it will definitely help support us in trying to have more of these weekly fight nights. We're on week number 8 now, guys. We don't plan on stopping, but we can also really use your support as well. And we'll thank you for anything that you can do to help us. All right.
Yep.
Game number 4. Game number 3, it appears. And it's going to be on Inferno Pools. It is match point. The score is 2-0. Harstem is in the advantage right now. And let's see if he can close things out. Cyber, why don't you take it away with the very first player?
On the right side, our Protoss player from Team Fnatic. We do indeed have Harstem, as you mentioned, up that 2-0 score.
And we do have the red Terran on the upper left of Inferno Pools. Down 0-2. This is his last chance. He had some pretty good ones early on, but now he needs to make it happen in game number 3. It's do or die. We do have here the Brazilian Terran, Kelazhur.
Inferno Pools cross spawn positions. Or horizontal spawn positions, I should say, not cross spawns, but these are the spawns that I feel like everybody hates. I don't know if everyone actually hates them, but I feel like a lot of players do indeed dislike them.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing here. Especially when you're this close to your opponent, it just depends on if you are an aggressive player, if you're a more macro-oriented player. That's kind of when you decide if you appreciate this sort of arrangement. I casted a game earlier today in our Clan War Team Gravity against Team MIA where a Zerg took a third. So basically the two players respond in these very positions, and the Zerg took the third in the center gold, which is really weird, right? But sometimes, like, you do kind of have that option, you know, if there was a Zerg on this map, but obviously not. But, you know, you could, like, creep from that area forward and stuff. Your reinforcements come faster. So it just kind of depends on the matchup if you appreciate this arrangement. But we'll see how these players play. We did see Harstem do a proxy Oracle last game. He could attempt that again. There's a variety of places he can do it. Hard to say.
Yeah, but we do have that early command center from our Terran player. He's following it up with the double racks as well. And not to be outdone terribly well, we do indeed have Harstem going to be taking his own natural expansion. It is a ways behind our Terran guy, but I mean, it's not necessarily a huge loss as long as he's able to defend relatively well. And there's going to be our bunker from Kelazhur.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of typical. You can't really take your Nexus too early in a situation. It's too risky. I mean, it is a 4-player map, but, you know, if your opponent decides to all-in you or something really, really early, like we're talking Marines, Reapers, something of that sort, if you go Nexus first, you're kind of in trouble, right? So Mothership Core expansion still is going to be kind of the go-to opener. Looks like right now that Cybernetic Store is finished. No tech on the way just yet for Harstem. In fact, he's going to go ahead and do Warp Gate research first. So interested to see what he will do from here.
Yep, follows it
Robo.
immediately up with the Robo facility just past 5 minutes. And Kelazhur, he has made his way all the way to the south side of the map. He has himself a very happy SCV grabbing some gold minerals way down low. And there is a command center.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
This
buddy.
is interesting. Yeah, that's what happens in a 4-player map. A lot of times players will try to sneak a Ninja Expo or something. Especially on this map, you got the Island Expos too. I've seen players sneak an Expo there too early as well. And you know what? This actually isn't the worst time for Kelazhur to play greedy like this, because Harstem going with Robo means that he is not planning on doing any sort of pressure in the early game. So we're not going to see Oracles. We're not going to see Blink. He's just going to go into that mid-game tech already. So basically Kelazhur, by taking that third CC, he may be looking pretty competitive when the time comes for Toss to attack.
Indeed. I mean, with this gold base expansion, that can change the game so much. And as you were talking about, the lack of aggro from Harstem may just be playing directly into what Kelazhur wants. However, at the same time, we do have that tech towards Colossus, the +1 on the way for our Terran player. And, well, that gold base is going to be finishing up in just moments. So we'll have to see where he decides to go from here. But defend, defend, defend is probably what he's going to want to do.
Yeah, we do have 3 Stalkers out here for Hearthstone. Probably just going to, do a little poking here and there. They're not going to really accomplish too much. There's certainly no Blink behind it. Looks like those Stalkers aren't even going to continue forward. I think maybe they just wanted to sit out front to make sure things didn't pass them without Hearthstone knowing. But now that this Observer has arrived, he's just going to utilize this. And he's going to be curious, because this Observer is going to get all the way into Kelazhur's base. He's not going to see really that much, right? Army is small, 3 racks, no factory yet. What's going on, right? As far as Harstem's wondering. So this may basically clue him in as to Kelazhur doing something sneaky.
Yeah, I mean, he should go ahead and take a sweep around the natural. He's seen the main base like you were talking about. He hasn't really seen all that much going on, which, I mean, it's not like Terran players only build production facilities at their natural. It's not like their main base is usually completely empty like this. So like you were talking about, this should definitely be a big, big clue to Harstem that something sneaky is going on. We do have that probe down on kind of the middle part of the map. He potentially is going to be just looking to drop down some sort of proxy pylon. And this one lone Marine at the front of Harstem's base. He was a brave fellow, but maybe a little bit of a dumb fellow.
That proxy pylon location's kind of interesting. It's not super close to where he'd attack, but at the same time, I guess, he's not going to put it right in front of the base, or in between these 2 locations. But this is interesting. I don't know exactly what he's trying to do with his probe here. Cancels that pylon, in fact. But Harstem right now, he's cranking out the Colossus, adding on 3 more gateways, is not taking a 3rd Nexus. So if he knows that Kelazhur has done a Ninja Expo, and I suspect a player of his caliber would be thinking that, given what he scouted, he's looking to do a big timing push, because he is not taking a 3rd in response.
Yep, now he does have that first pylon established, and I don't know, do you think he's just going to be waiting for extended thermal lance, and then he's going to try to push in with like this 2 Colossus Immortal Stalker Sentry army?
That to me seems reasonable, and that's exactly what he's going to do. I think you were right. I mean, he's going to scout first with that Observer just to make sure he's not walking into something that is too crazy. But if he's choosing to make this push at 1043, which is usually where Terran has a huge advantage, he knows there's a Ninja 3rd. He wants to do damage. Here we go.
Yep, he's moving in. The worker's not pulled off the line. Kelazhur is just going to be giving up the front of his base. A couple of force fields were thrown down there, but there are a couple of more sentries in this mix. Now, there's going to be the Guardian Shield popping off. Kelazhur desperately trying to wait out as long as he possibly can before engaging. And of course, he does not have very good upgrades, but here come the SCVs. Force fields keeping away a lot of the Marine Marauder as the Colossus just tear through absolutely everything. And now that the SCVs are gone, there's no buffer for this Marine Marauder. He's going to pick up into the main base and get out of that natural, as in Harstem pushes further and further to the Terran main base, going to be sniping almost sniping down combat shields, as no, it is denied, but +1 armor is completed. He does not have enough, I would think, to deal with this many Colossus and Stalkers.
Yeah, normally I'd say, okay, he has some good building placement. That might help him here, but actually everything that Toss has is range. So with that, Toss will still get in shots, even if you try to dance around buildings. So we are seeing these SCVs put in some work, but they've all gone down. It's really nothing left here for Kelazhur, and pretty much Harstem is going to take game number 3 here, folks.
Yep, a clean 3-0. There's the GG. Well played as Harstem takes the first of the series. First series of the night.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first shutout we've seen. So congratulations to Harstem, who's done a really good job in all these 3 games. Absolutely recognizing the funky stuff that went down this last game. Kelazhur taking that ninja expansion. He's like, I'm not going to let you get away with this. I'm not even going to look for expansion. I don't care about that, because I know you are going to be behind. There's no way you're going to be able to handle my army. And he played his cards right, 100%.
Yeah, just really great play. But coming back to, you mentioned quickly there, I don't think we have seen a shutout, at least in any of the games that we've casted, in any of the 3 fight nights, because everything that got close to a shutout basically got turned around, or at least one of the players was able to take some games off. I mean, thinking back to that Gosu user versus Pili Pili series. That was a delicious comeback. Unfortunately for Kelazhur, I mean, maybe we were pumping him up a little bit too much, but Harstem showing that he is the better player. And yeah, there were some mistakes from Kelazhur that could have changed the games dramatically, particularly that game to, maybe the SCV poll and hidden third expo at the gold on Inferno pools. If he hadn't done that, the game probably would have turned out differently. But that said and done, Harstem has earned his victory very well. So congratulations to him.
Coming up next, we are going to have Desro versus Fenner, another best-of-5 series for $10. But before that, we're going to head into a break. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.